Okay, so here we have question 43, and this is from the SAT test number 15. So let's jump in. Let's try to solve it here. So 43 says, according to the passage, exposure to light allows seeds to do something. First thing we should notice is this: according to the passage. These types of questions that begin with "in the passage," "according to the passage," or "the passage indicates," or we can draw an inference from. Really, though, this is the most common one, according to the passage. What this tells us typically is that we need to find one specific text. And that's generally the rule for all of the questions that we encounter, with a few exceptions. But for this one, it's very clear that there's usually one specific text that we're going to find to answer this question. So this says, according to the passage, exposure to light allows seeds to do something. So what we're going to do is we're going to scan through. I have the beginning of the passage here. We're going to scan through it, and we're basically going to look for what does the passage say about exposure to light and what it allows seeds to do. Now, I'll probably put this at the easier end of the questions, and this is probably something we might be able to do from memory, simply because if we understand the passage, we sort of should have an idea of what exposure to light allows seeds to do. But let's find the specific text just so we can practice that for these types of questions that are going to ask for specific text. I have 44 here too because it's referencing lines 13 to 16. So you know that I use two things, sort of what I call like the linear pacing rule and the question order rule. They basically say that if you're doing an earlier question in the test, so it's like the first question after the passage, you're going to look at the beginning part of the passage. Later, you'll look at the later end. The other thing that you can do is you can look at the lines that are mentioned. So in this case, for lines 13 to 16 are reference for question 44, which makes it likely that the lines for 43 are going to come before 13 to 16. And I already know in advance that's not the case for this question. So there are exceptions to the rule, and that's something you should be mindful of. But an easy question like this, it shouldn't get in the way. So what we got to do now is scan/search for what exposure to light allows seeds to do. So this is many millennia before the invention of herbicides. This is talking about controlling weeds. It talks about how plowing can often allow new wheat seedlings to go, to germinate. Colleges have shown they can have this many seeds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And eventually we should end up here. This is line 26, where it says they concluded that soil disturbance gives weed seeds a light break, and this stimulates their germination. So this is the sentence here that most clearly tells us about the effect of light on the seeds. And what it says is, when it has this light break, is that it stimulates their germination. And that basically means it begins to allow them to sprout and to develop. So answer choice A says begin to develop. That pretty much is what germination means, so it's probably going to be our answer. Let's look at the other ones. Absorb necessary nutrients. Not something that our text says, not something that our passage says. We can eliminate B. Withstand extreme temperatures. Same. Nothing that the passage says or that the text says. And then D, achieve maximum growth. No. So it's going to be A, begin to develop, because it says down here that they begin to germinate when they're exposed to light. So choose answer choice A for question 43.